flames lick party offices, streets echo with tear gas and chants. What began as student vigils after a station collapse has erupted into Serbia's fiercest unrest in decades. Riot police clash with protesters, hundreds are detained, and Vučić vows crackdowns as Russia rushes to his side. A nation stands at a crossroads. Are Serbians fighting for democracy's rebirth or bracing for its burial? Anti-government protests in Serbia have exploded into widespread violence this weekend, marking a dramatic escalation after months of largely peaceful demonstrations. On August 16th, angry protesters clashed with riot police in Belgrade and the western town of Valjevo, setting fire to ruling party offices and battling security forces with flares, rocks and bottles. The scenes in Valjevo were particularly intense, where several thousand protesters gathered after a video surfaced on social media showing a young man from the town being severely beaten by police during earlier demonstrations. Wearing scarves over their faces and chanting slogans against President Aleksandar Vučić, a group of young men threw flares at his Serbian Progressive Party offices before setting them ablaze. Police responded with multiple rounds of tear gas and charged at the demonstrators who continued hurling projectiles. Similar clashes erupted simultaneously in Belgrade, with police directing tear gas at protesters while battling crowds who set garbage containers on fire throughout the evening. The violence has now spread across multiple cities for 5 consecutive nights, with dozens of people injured and hundreds detained over the past week. These confrontations represent a stark transformation from the student-led movement that began in November following the tragic collapse of a train station canopy in Novi Sad, which killed 16 people. What started as vigils for the victims has evolved into mass demonstrations demanding government accountability, with hundreds of thousands of Serbians taking to the streets at the movement's peak. President Vučić has responded with defiance and promises of a crackdown.
The hysteria is increasing. The violence is becoming more pronounced because they have nothing else to offer. The time of responsibility is coming, and all those who have burned and destroyed will be held accountable and punished for their misdeeds. Serbia, hardworking people, the diligent hands of our nation, we will never disregard you. Thank you for your love and support.
According to Serbian media, President Vučić has repeatedly accused protesters of acting on foreign orders to destroy Serbia, while rejecting their central demand for early parliamentary elections. On August 15th, in a televised address, he escalated his rhetoric, declaring,
"This is the phase of despair and helplessness, when you have nothing more to offer the citizens except beatings, clubs, and all the rest."
Interior Minister Ivica Dačić claimed that large-scale protests occurred in more than 90 locations nationwide this week, drawing over 3,000 demonstrators to the streets. International concern is mounting over the government's response. Michael O'Flaherty, the Council of Europe's Commissioner for Human Rights, raised alarm Friday over what he called the police's disproportionate force in Serbia, urging authorities to end arbitrary arrests and de-escalate the situation. Secretary-General of the Council of Europe, Alain Berset, has called for calm and respect of the right to peaceful assembly, stating that Serbian authorities must uphold Council of Europe standards. The Serbian crisis has drawn support for Vučić from unexpected quarters, highlighting the broader geopolitical implications of the unrest. Russia's foreign ministry issued a statement offering assistance to the embattled pro-Moscow president.
Russia cannot remain unresponsive to what is happening in brotherly Serbia, which, under difficult circumstances, is mustering the strength it needs to preserve independence and to uphold its sovereignty. Moscow feels confident that peace and stability will be restored in that country, and it will cope with the attempts to undermine the internal unity of the Serbian people, which is critical at this historical moment.
The Russian statement praised police for using lawful methods and means to contain the violent mobs.
Law enforcement officers are using lawful methods and means to contain the violent mobs, becoming themselves targets in the process. Dozens of law enforcement personnel have been wounded. Innocent civilians get hurt. The authorities have so far managed to keep the situation under control, but doing so is becoming increasingly difficult.
This Russian backing came as Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico also expressed solidarity with Vučić during a press conference in Bratislava on August 15. Fico, who has maintained close ties with Moscow, described the Serbian president as an extremely prominent figure in world politics who often suffers for his sovereign positions. The Slovak leader went further, accusing his own country's opposition of interfering in Serbian internal affairs and comparing the protests to what he termed maidanisation efforts across Eastern Europe. The Slovak opposition is part of the maidanisation of the world, Fico declared, specifically targeting Progressive Slovakia Party chairperson Michal Simeka.
The Slovak opposition is part of the maidanisation of the world. The Slovak opposition is exactly one of those politicians who have no problem going to another country and supporting the opposition in a national political battle, which is unprecedented. What the Slovak opposition has failed to do in trying to mess up this state is to go to Serbia to learn what it could look like. You are all laughing about it, but the fact is that we have email communications that confirm that there was an interest in occupying government buildings in Slovakia. They were giving instructions. Bring your mattresses, tents, lie down in the government office building, and let the police come.
Maidanisation refers to the spread or repetition of mass protest movements like Ukraine's 2013-14 Euromaidan uprising, where citizens mobilised in public squares to demand political change. Supporters see it as a symbol of democratic resistance and people's power, while critics, especially in Russia, frame it as a foreign-backed strategy of regime change and destabilisation. The protests in Serbia have already claimed significant political casualties. The crisis forced the resignation of Prime Minister Milos Vučić, who was in office during the Novi Sad disaster, along with his entire cabinet. However, President Vučić remains firmly in power despite mounting pressure and accusations that he has systematically undermined democratic institutions while allowing corruption to flourish. The railway station collapse that sparked this movement has become a powerful symbol of what protesters see as endemic corruption in Serbia's infrastructure projects. Many blamed the tragedy on poor renovation work and corner cutting that they attribute directly to Vučić's government. The student-led movement initially focused on demanding transparent investigations into the disaster, but quickly expanded to broader calls for democratic reform and early elections. As violence continues to escalate across Serbian cities, with reports of police brutality and allegations of excessive force against demonstrators, the country finds itself at a crossroads. Videos circulating on social media show police with shields and batons beating protesters as flares illuminate the streets, while reports emerge of minors among those arrested and allegedly mistreated during custody. Vučić's warning that Serbia is in great danger and that gangs have taken over the streets suggests the government is preparing for an even more forceful response. With Russia pledging support and regional allies rallying behind him, the Serbian president appears determined to weather this crisis through strength rather than compromise, setting the stage for potentially more violent confrontations in the days ahead.